Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors. And this week we've got a little bit of a different episode for you. A little bit of hunting talk, but a little bit of life talk as well, something that I like to do from time to time. So I was joined this week. I planned on doing an episode along these lines with these gentlemen. They've been on here before. This is going to be Jeremy, excuse me, frog in my throat. Jeremy, Dimitri, and Mike from Antler Up Outdoors from just south of us here in Pennsylvania. Mike is actually a New Yorker, a downstater. We won't hold that against him. Seems like a good fella. But the three of us, the three of them and myself, all have quite a bit in common when it comes to our passion for hunting, quite obviously, but also kind of how our young lives went as far as prioritizing other things before hunting and then getting around to being very passionate about the outdoors in our 20s and 30s. So these guys all played sports avidly, so we kind of got into a little bit of life talk about, you know, how we progressed through our lives, what sports meant to us, and how a lot of that has helped transition us over into success in our work careers, our family lives, and also into the outdoors as well. So fun discussion here, a little bit different. I hope you enjoy it. I think there's some good lessons to be learned from all four of us and different things that we've experienced and things that we've taken away from our years playing sports and athletics, and that transition over well to handling things that come at you in life. So fun discussion here. And then the last thing I'll say before I let this thing rip, just make sure to head over and check out our Shed Fest that we're doing. That has been a good success so far as signups. So we are hedging up on that 100 number, and as I mentioned, that's my goal. But I have good confidence that we will surpass that. So the Shed Fest contest is a fun contest, essentially a membership drive for the National Deer Association. So if you head over to our website and you purchase a T-shirt, that will automatically enter you for the contest. We have three categories: the best match set, the best single side, and then the best deadhead. We have three categories with some great prizes to go along with those. We appreciate the support from the folks that stepped up and donated product for that. So it's been a fun success, fun networking tool. Met some great people already that were local here that I didn't know about and they didn't know about us. So it's what it's all about, building that community and building that friendship with new people that all have the same passions and desires to get out and enjoy the outdoors. So if you head on over, check that out, get that shirt ordered. We will be leaving the order chain for that open until April 1st, so 1 month from today. And at that point, then we will order the shirts. I'm trying to get a big order together so that I can not have to pay too much for the shirts and not make at least a break-even point on this big event we're doing here. So hope you all understand. I've gotten a few more messages there, and I need to send out an email blast to all that have placed an order to clarify that. But that has been the plan all along, and I hope that is okay with everyone. But it seems to be A-okay once it's discussed and explained. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Enjoy this warmer weather we got here. Take advantage of it. Get out and do some walking. There's bone on the ground. So have fun. Have a great week. And keep feeding them.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a T-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
You know.
He's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's, I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize. Remember this?
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pertnier Outdoors. Life is good, friend. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. Judging by your Instagram post, it looks like you guys have a good time up there.
It's always a good time.
Yeah, almost had one there at the Super Bowl, too.
Whew.
I thought you guys were going.
So did we. But we've been here before, and we've learned not to get too excited.
The Bills.
It comes on. There it is.
Where's Haircut Boy?
He's here.
Okay.
I told him because he's here. Hold on. There
Oh,
nice. I like it, dude. I told him. I said we're gonna psych him out, knowing that he's not on screen.
right.
Bill's just jealous I have hair to cut.
All right. Easy. I could put a hat on. This fucking thing's blinding everybody.
Shots fired early.
Yeah.
Fired early.
I was gonna say you better start hitting record right now because this will be all the good stuff for the outtakes.
This is how it's. You know how we do it. We just hit the record button. Nobody knows if we're taping or not. That's how we roll.
Right. Oh shit! Just keep the beer coming. We'll be all right.
Yeah. Man, it's weird not being able to see Dimitri. It creeps me out. I just hear his voice coming in from
I know.
nowhere.
Well, what's funny is because I set up this little table in the basement, and the first time we did it, we were actually kind of closer next to each other, and then the next time I flipped it just because I don't have anything hanging really on the other side of the wall. I was like, well, at least we could get some memorabilia stuff in the back, and I had him set up. He's like, man, I don't care. I was like, all right, dude, sounds good. I'm like, whatever you want. So.
He's got a face for radio anyway.
That's right. No one wants to see my face anyway.
He could be like the Stig on what is that car show? He just dresses in the race car outfit and nobody knows what he looks like. He'd just be the voice.
That's when I start talking anyway on the podcast. Everyone's like, "Who's this guy anyway?" Hey, who? You are recording though, right? Like I don't need to record.
No, you're good. I got it.
Sweet.
Old hat here. So I'm joined by the boys from Antler Up Outdoors. I got Jeremy, Dimitri, and Mike. So thank you guys for hopping on tonight. Been wanting to catch up with you for several months now, following up on hunting season. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I have zero notes written down of things to talk about because Jeremy, especially you and I, we talk like once a week on the phone and we get down all these rabbit holes, and then it's like, well, we've already covered that, so there's no point in discussing that on a show because it'd be fake.
Yep.
So yeah, it was probably about a year ago now that you and I, Jeremy, connected.
Yeah.
And you were getting your podcast off the ground. We were kind of just getting our feet underneath ourselves. So I think it's kind of cool to be circling back around to do a show with you guys. Here we are a year later. So I guess that'd be kind of a fun place to start. Just, I guess for anybody who doesn't, I would guess that most people that listen to us probably know who you guys are, but I guess just introduce the three of you guys and, who you are, where you're from, what you guys are all about.
Mike, you go first.
Yeah. My name's Mike Marcasiano. I live down here in the, I guess you would call it southern New York zone, just outside of New York City, about 20 minutes north of New York City in Westchester County. Got into archery and bow hunting about 5 years ago. My old man got me turned back onto it. And about 2 years after that, I ran into our CEO here, Jeremy, at Total Archery Challenge.
Oh, God, no.
And we just clicked and, we just started spitballing ideas back and forth and things we liked about the industry, baseball, sports, hunting. And, here we are in 2021 and, we're still at it. And, Dimitri, got to meet him, shortly after. And, just really happy to be with these guys and doing what we're doing.
So I'm Dmitry Sedorik, number 2 member of the Antler Up Podcast, co-host. Grew up hunting here in central Pennsylvania all my life. Went to college, came back, and live in central Pennsylvania now. A physical therapist at Penn State Sports Medicine. Really love
the outdoor industry and hunting, and really enjoy talking to people each week. And it's really been fun growing this. And Jeremy married my cousin, so we kind of met that way. And kind of our Sunday weekly talks at church, we're always hunting and kind of getting together, and we started hunting together after that, and really built this relationship, which has been great.
Yeah. So, I mean, to build off of that, just, like I said to you last time, I think we were on, Bill, I just grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania and reside now here, just a couple minutes down the road from Dimitri. And, man, it's funny because I actually had a conversation with one of my baseball players last night at hitting, and he's like, "Hey, Dins, did you get any deer this past season?" I said, "Yeah, I got 2 during archery." And I said, 2 doe. And I said, "How about you? You get out much?" He's like, "Just during rifle season after football." And I said, "Nice." And he was like, he didn't get anything. He said his dad shot actually a nice big 6. I said, "Show me a picture." And it's a big 6. Like for me, that's one like a cool deer on a bucket list that I would like to shoot. And we're just like talking, and he talked about, he goes, "Dins, do you fish?" And I said, "Well, I not really. I did more actually fish when I was younger." And he said he got into fly fishing with his father during this whole quarantine stuff, COVID. And I looked at him and I was like, "T, man, cherish those moments." I said, because this is they're the moments in time that I regret as a little kid, like as a young teenager, just because of, I think I even mentioned that too last time, Bill, is they're the moments that I regret not really being in the moment with my father. And now it's, I know that's exactly what I needed. And just to be a part of this now and having, the support of Mike and Dimitri and everybody else. And heck, man, even you, it's been Dimitri just said it right before we hit record. Who would have thought like where we are right now? And as far as support and stuff, it's beyond me, man. And I feel blessed, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. And that is exactly what this is all about, is this whole journey of doing a podcast. You and I talk about this a lot, Jeremy. You can get yourself so wrapped up into trying to be somebody rather than realizing that you got to stay focused on who you are and why you started it in the first place. And everything you just said is so right. If there's just a handful of people that are listening to this, and you can make an impact, or you can create a community for them that they can, maybe they get themselves to slow down and enjoy those times with their father, their grandfather, their brother, sister, cousin, whatever. That's what this is all about, is just creating that community. And it's insane. The people that it's not like I've met thousands of people doing this, but it's meeting those 4 or 5 people that I'm messaging with consistently, text messaging and on social media. And it's like, I haven't even met you guys yet, but I feel like I know you. I met you and I were talking about yesterday. Jim DeAugustino, we met him at TAC 2 years ago, but like him and I literally, I talked to him more than I talked to any of my best friends from high school. Like he's a new friend, and it's a legit relationship. And I'm sure when he hears this, he'll probably have to get a box of tissues and start crying, because I'm just talking about how great of a dude Jim is. But you make these relationships, and you start realizing as you move forward in life, like we all are super busy. We've all got kids, you got jobs, you got all this stuff, but it's that community of the passion you have. And I feel bad for people that don't have something, whether it's hunting or fishing or golf or hiking, trail running, whatever the hell it is. You get yourself into a community, and it like gives you purpose. And that's what this has given to me. Not that I needed purpose, but it's like taken my passion to a whole nother level. And it's meeting guys like you and telling stories and following along with your journeys of what you guys are up to. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think too, we never claim to be experts, and we are the farthest from that. We're just 3 regular guys that, I think in reality, our thing is Dimitri has background in education as well, being with physical, as well as being a physical therapist. And, we just kind of wanted to learn. And, something I always tell my students is always want to learn, always want to be engaged in something. And that's where, this kind of platform started, and just for us to continue to grow and be better hunters and individuals. But then, there is people out there that could benefit as well. And that's why we started it as well, just to get to get more information. And like you said, Bill, in the end, we have that opportunity to grow and meet people and build cool relationships, and you know who are genuine. And then sometimes, it's just, hey, thanks for coming on, and, see you next time.
You figure that out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this industry, I think people strive to be perfect because they feel like if they want to move forward with the industry, that's what they have to be.
Right.
And I think that's misconception is because mistakes are real life and they're going to happen and no one's perfect. So if anyone tells you they know exactly what they're doing, they're probably lying to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the feedback I get from, just some of my buddies and, even like family that listen to us and, they're following.
Most of them too aren't even hunters, right, Mike?
Yeah, most of them aren't even hunters. And the thing I get most is just how just natural and pure and raw what we share is. It's personal experience. It's, just like you said, Billy, just coming on, hitting the record button and just go, right? So, I mean, I think people can really relate to that. And I think they appreciate that when you give that to them.
Yeah, no doubt. And Dimitri, I feel so good to have you on here because I listened to your guys. I think it was last week's episode. I was thinking, I was like, man, I got to get my wife to listen to this because my wife's a physical therapist. And you were, I guess I'm kind of curious, like your background in physical therapy. Or did you, obviously you went to school for that. What's your specialty? What exactly do you do with physical therapy?
So I'm in sports medicine and deal with a lot of orthopedic injuries as well. So, our clinic specifically is sports medicine, but we also see the general population and anything orthopedics.
So you're kind of an outpatient type of deal.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That my wife's in the hospital setting. She chose to go that route and really loves it. She works I'll tell you, it's been, I told her this, I finally showed my emotional side. I told her on Valentine's Day, I said, hon, I'm really proud of you. And, and all joking aside, medical healthcare professionals, it's very hard. None of us are, well, Dimitri, you are, but you're not necessarily in a hospital setting. What people have had to go through that work in a hospital for the last year is a freaking nightmare. And I don't understand it. I work in a very blue collar industry. I'm in shops with mechanics that hate all this. They don't hate being told what to do, but it's hard to understand what people are going through that are living this every single day and have to come home to screaming kids and freaking shitty diapers and, midnight temper tantrums. It's like, yeah, I give people in the healthcare industry a lot of credit that have had to work through this whole thing because you're right in the line of fire of it. So,
yeah, dude, I preach on that one.
Yeah. Well, I will get my wife. I'll suggest for her to listen. She has not listened to a single one of these episodes, so I could talk as much smack as I wanted to, and she doesn't even care. I think she might have started unfollowing us on Instagram because she hasn't liked anything.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, it's probably for the better.
I do this, man. I'm constantly. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, I ripped her pretty good on that one. I'm like, they make it sound like I'm like trapped or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to start stacking your chips afterwards too, right? Playing the cards.
Right. Yeah. I'm just had a very important conversation this evening that I was not anticipating about the potential allowance of Slick Willie to take an adventure out west this fall.
Okay. Nice.
Oh.
Nice.
My brother-in-law put her and myself on the spot. Sunday we were having a little winter party, and he's like, him and Brian, we were all together, and Brian's there, Trigger we call him, and they're talking about the hunt because the two of them are for sure going. I haven't even brought it up. Okay. And AJ's looking at me, and he's sitting right next to Sarah, and he goes, "So Billy, you coming?" And I'm like,
not now. Yeah.
And Sarah's looks like glaring at me, and I'm glaring back at AJ. I'm like, you motherfucker. I'm like, it's just not the right time. I'm trying to. So she brought it up tonight, and I'm being very quiet because I don't want her to know that I'm down here celebrating. But I'm thinking it might happen. Yeah.
Boy.
So that's why you were giving her all that love on Valentine's Day.
That's right.
You didn't really mean that.
I meant it.
Extra motivation.
Listen, boys, what happens on the podcast stays on the podcast. All right.
Until your wife listens to just the one episode.
Yeah. Her somebody will give her a hot tip that she should probably listen to minute 18 of the discussion. But
Man,
yeah.
I love him.
So what's it now? We all have kids. Dimitri, you got a brand spanking new baby.
Yeah, I have a
How's
20-month-old
How's
and
that
then
going?
5-week-old. It's going good. I'm getting more sleep every week and can't complain so far.
You guys had a girl, right?
Boy, have
You
two
had a boy.
boys.
Two boys.
Yep.
Oh,
He
man.
has two boys. Mike has two little girls, and then my daughter, she'll be turning 7 actually next Wednesday. So
Nice.
Yeah, she's her summer gift of, she actually heard me talking to Jim actually on the phone a couple of weeks ago, where he and I were just shooting shit and talking, and he was telling me about his wife's bow that he hooked up, and he goes, man, you just got to get her something like small and little. And I didn't know she was like hiding underneath this table. And I said, well, yeah. I said, she has like a little, like old school trad bear bow. That's just like, it's a toy basically.
Yeah.
That's, real carbon arrows. But I said, I would like to get her a real one just to take her on 3D shoots this summer. Just Dimitri and I, she could come along for a little bit or whatever. And next thing you know it, I just like look down and there she is. She's like smiling and just playing with her hands, like all happy. And as soon as we get upstairs to do bedtime or get ready for her bath, she's like, Mom, Dad said he's going to buy me the real bow. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I got to buy her the real bow for sure now. So yeah. So I'm excited, man. I hope she enjoys it. And that's, that's why I love, I know Dimitri with his boys are be getting them involved and all that stuff. And Mike, you got your wife involved with shooting and stuff. So it's becoming like a cool family whole aspect for the three of us, just to get them involved somehow, some way, to hopefully earn us some brownie points down the line somehow, some way.
Yeah, I think making it a family affair is definitely a positive. So it gets to be a challenge when you have a wife that wants to hunt just as much as you do. I've heard a couple different people's discussions about that, and that can be a challenge, but somewhere in the middle there.
I'm good there.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that either.
No.
Just the archery piece.
Yep. So sports was something I wanted to talk about with you guys. I think that's something unique that all four of us have in common. And I was listening, it wasn't a hunting podcast. I was listening to a podcast and it got me thinking about, sports, and there seems to be a correlation between a lot of guys that are getting heavy into hunting right now, kind of our age bracket, and getting real serious about it. A lot of them have a sports and competitive background, which kind of brought them into, they needed a way to kind of fuel that missing piece in their life when you don't have the competition of team sports anymore. So I was just kind of thought it'd be a fun discussion to chat about. I'm interested because I know in passing, I've heard that all you guys played sports, but I guess I'm just curious, like what your sports backgrounds were, and I don't know, just kind of see where the discussion goes from there. So Jeremy, I'm looking right at you. I don't know did you play multiple sports growing up? Did you focus on baseball or?
You know what's funny is I played pretty much every sport growing up. I always say my favorite year was my 8th grade year, just because it was football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring. And that was the last time that I did all 3 sports in one school year. And then I focused on football and baseball primarily. And once I got to sophomore year, that was my last year of playing football. I skipped junior year of football, played senior year, just because, you hear of all the crazy talk of you need to be here for baseball at a certain time and go to certain I'm saying cat because I'm looking at a freaking cat tail right now on Bill's screen. But, when you hit a certain grade, you should be throwing X miles per hour and all that type of stuff. So I really wanted to focus on my junior year in high school to maybe try to get me somewhere. And I had the opportunity to come to Penn State and play. And when the way things worked out, when I came up, there was a new coach. So I ended up playing for the club team for 3 years and had a blast. I mean, actually, I would say our club team was more competitive than the actual varsity team, collegiate team at the time. But Yeah. So, I mean, baseball is my primary sport. It's actually what I'm our head coach for our varsity baseball team here for the high school I coach at, and big school. Actually had a couple kids these past couple of years go off and play D1, and a couple of them actually started this past weekend with their first games, which was pretty cool. A couple of them down at Virginia Tech and Penn State and some other schools. So it's just really neat to see them go on. And I love it. And I'm glad you brought this up to me yesterday when we talked, just because of it's what you said is just hit the nail on the head. It really feels that fire of that competitiveness, and it grounds you and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I worry about kids right now that are in those, those high school years, especially with everything going on. This has basically been 2 school years that have been jacked up with athletics. And I look back to my high school years and then going on to college. I mean, if I didn't have sports, I mean, not that I would have been down some god awful road, but I mean, it was everything. I mean, sports was all I cared about. It was baseball. It turned into just baseball was life. And I didn't know anything else. It was like, okay, I need to make a few bucks during the summer, but it's all about baseball, all year round. Yeah. And we have a lot of younger kids that listen to this. And I think I was interested in your guys' experiences in college playing sports too, because I think I learned a lot about myself going to college and playing, because when you're in high school, especially in some of the more, you're not at some huge double or triple A size school. You're at a B or a C size school. You might be the best kid in your county and you think you're a stud, and you show up to these, I went to state college here in New York, to Fredonia, and I thought I was God's gift to earth playing baseball. And I show up there and it's like, I wasn't a fly on a freaking hog's ass. It was like, you're just a baseball player at that point. And you learn a lot about life and how you got to work hard and get back to grinding. If you want to be something, you really got to work at it. So.
No, man. I don't mean to cut Dimitri or Mike off here, but it brings up even a good point for me. It taught me after my playing days were done, it really forwarded the opportunity for me to be prepared for life in general. Just because for me, I actually have 2 degrees, quote unquote, just because my first undergrad was in hospitality. I was going to do country clubs, golf club management, that type of stuff. And found out once I was getting serious with my now wife, that wasn't going to be the life I wanted to really live, just because I would be gone all the time. And I wanted to have my family I wanted to be there for my family compared to what I had growing up. So I said, listen, I wanted to go to school originally to be a teacher. What do you think about doing that? So she said yes, and I went for it. And so I went back to school to do the kines thing, to get my teaching cert, to be a phys ed teacher. And, it's hard to get a teaching job. So here we are, we're married already, and she's has been teaching for 4 years at the time. I'm substitute teaching, I'm coaching, I'm doing personal training, and all while we just had a baby. And I'm pulling at one point, Bill, I had 5 jobs at one time. I was doing five, my solid number 1 job was substitute teaching, but then I was doing all different types of things. And, so man, it struggled, and I interviewed for jobs, and I know I crushed them. I know I did a great job. I just feel like some of the schools that I interviewed for, man, they know who they want to hire, but then also I think they knew I wanted to always be where I'm at, just because my wife's there, and that's where I did my student teaching. And long story short, man, I thought for a while I was down, man. I was, bloom and gloom as much as possible. And, from all my mentors that I had in sports just kept saying, I just always remember, dude, pick your head up and just keep going. There's no other way to go other than up. You might be down, and you could be as far down as possible in the deep, deep, dark ocean, but you could still work your way up. And I just always remember my biggest mentor was actually my high school baseball coach. And he just, he believed in me, and it just was something that where some of the things he said, during those dark moments when I thought I was never going to get a job, or man, did I make the wrong decision, second guessing myself, I just kept pushing harder. And I looked at it like life or death. I remember the last interview that I did to get the full-time job. I knew the guy I was going up against. It was no hard feelings, but I'm like, dude, I'm going to kill you. Like in my mind, like, that was like, it was kill or be killed. And, you know, I mean, that's just the way I had to be. And it was my job or not. Like if you could go through my files on my computer, you'll see those. It will say my job. Like I was constantly saying, that's my job. That's mine to have. And that's honestly that I truly believe the reason why I got that was just my mindset and what I learned through my playing days, just because, you know, I'm not the biggest person. I'm not the, you know, I always had to work hard to get where I was. And it's the same thing for my job. So it's something I try, again, man, I try to be as real and raw with my students, and I try to portray that message as well.
That's such an awesome story. And it's so relatable. I mean,
yeah.
And a lot of that grit and that determination, you know, comes from the fact that you knew you had to, you had no choice. You had to do it. And, you know, there's so many lessons that come from that situation, and everybody's dealt with their own things, you know, somebody telling you that you're not good enough. And, you know, that you got a choice there. You can either just fold and just quit, or you can just, you know, get back after it and go for the next one. And, you know, everybody's got a story to share, you know, like a situation like that, but that's such a great one because you had to. And I love you telling that, because that's a depth of a person there. You know, it's like, you know, hearing somebody talk about, you know, how they shot a doe, that doesn't really teach you a whole lot about them as a person, but, you know, hearing that story and the challenges that you faced in that situation and what you had to do to get it done, like that's just life, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's bigger than deer hunting, you know.
Dude, that's something like I know Dimitri could elaborate on, and like Dimitri always says, like, people don't know everybody's story, you know, and that's the thing. And
well, so I just think, especially in the hunting industry, and I mean, you can relate it to basically anything in life.
Everything.
You know, we're so quick to judge people, or, you know, talk badly about something. And I think social media has a big thing to play a part in that. But, you know, when you say something, do you really know that person's background story? Do you know where they're from? Do you know what their history's been? You know, what their life's been growing up? I mean, we really don't. So maybe, you know, whether it's a buck they post, or, you know, whether it's a grade they got on a test or something, you know, you don't know what they're thinking about or they're feeling at that time. So, you know, I think we're just kind of quick on judging people of what we see and what we, our perspective on it. And is that really what's going on in that person's head? And I think that's a big lesson a lot of people need to realize. Like today we posted a podcast with our friend Mike of shooting a moose out of a saddle, which is a crazy story from Alberta. And then the first comment we got today was someone just saying, oh man, he should have let that thing grow up a few years. It's like, really? Like, you know, you didn't even listen to the podcast and listen to the story. But dude doesn't even follow us.
Yeah.
And he's just going to troll him like that.
Yeah.
Keyboard warriors. That's what they are. It's just, you know, they're out there.
It's become a dumpster fire in a lot of places with that stuff. Facebook is just god awful. I mean, some of the stuff, it's like, we had a guy message us last night that's pissed off that he hasn't gotten a tracking number yet for the t-shirt.
It wasn't me. I was just busting your balls.
I know. But it's, and I apologize. Like, I felt bad about it, but it's like, dude, we elaborated that we're not gonna. Let's look at me. Look at how defensive I'm getting. I posture up. I'm bringing it up. Like, let it go, Bill. Jesus. But yeah, man, it's so true. And I mean, Dimitri, like, your experiences. I don't know much. I mean, I've heard other people talk about you. I mean, what was playing sports growing up? And you played football, right?
So growing up, I was a 3-sport athlete growing up. I played baseball, football, and then I wrestled. Gave up baseball pretty early when I got into kind of high school, sophomore year, just because it wasn't my cup of tea. Didn't really enjoy the sport. So I kind of stuck with football and wrestled throughout high school, and then kind of focused more on football because, you know, growing up, my dream was to be in the NFL. I mean, from kindergarten, we had a thing at graduation, and everyone said what they wanted to be growing up, and mine was a professional football player. So basically, since that time, that was kind of my goal and my passion. And going through high school, I kind of put all my eggs into that basket. So, even hunting took a back burner at that time. I remember playing football games and trying to get up on Saturday morning, and I just was beat down and walking to the tree stand with my dad. I just knew I just didn't want to be there, but kind of regret some of those mornings where I kind of got out of bed late, but that's what I wanted to do and really pursue that. So, ended up taking a walk-on position at the University of Maryland my freshman year. So I played Division I football. So, that was real eye-opening coming from a small town in central Pennsylvania and going to the Division I school, and talk about being a fly on the wall. You're a real nobody when you're a walk-on at a big school like that. So, I mean, for you to kind of step up and, get to the top, I mean, it's going to be a long road. And, things actually didn't work out there after my first year at the University of Maryland. It just wasn't for me. I mean, it was a big school and kind of in the city, and I didn't really enjoy that. I was a small town and I liked the outdoors. So also I couldn't get the major that I wanted, and not that I didn't think that I couldn't make the NFL after that first year of college, but I kind of came to realize that that might not be the ultimate goal for me. So had to kind of think about moving on after college. But I did play football. I transferred to the University of Edinburgh, so it was a Division II school. But same thing there. I mean, college football is a little bit different than high school. You kind of just piggyback off your talent, especially if you're from a small school. But when you're in a college, whether it's football or baseball or basketball or any sport, they're always recruiting new kids to take your job, whether you're a senior, sophomore. The freshmen coming in are supposed to be just as good as you or better than you. That's what the coaches' job are. So, being at college every day, you're battling for your position. So, take things for granted. So you got to really put the foot down and on working hard and do everything that you can each day to make yourself better. And that really taught me a lot about life, that, no one's you could sit there and complain about it, but no one's really going to care to listen, so you got to do what you got to do to kind of achieve your goals, and you got to learn to set those goals and kind of apply those. So, and then I was kind of at the end of my football career, and that's when I kind of knew I wanted to get into physical therapy and really pursue that as my passion as well.
What position did you play?
At Maryland, I was a linebacker, and then when I transferred to Edinburgh, I played fullback.
I figured you were either a linebacker just by, just looking at your pictures of your build. I just was looking at you and figured that's about what you were. Kind of a beefcake you are.
What's really cool, though, is about his story. I had a conversation. I was wrapping up, finishing the edit of our podcast that we aired today, and it was 9:45, and I got a FaceTime from one of my players last year who I love the kid. I look at him as a son to me. And it was FaceTime. I answered the phone. He's like, "Dins, what's up, boy?" And he's hooting and hollering. He's at Virginia Tech, and he had his first 3 hits this past weekend. And so I was just talking to him, and I said, "Hey, what's the deal? What's going on?" And he said, "We're at Miami this weekend." And I said, "What are the?" I said, "You started." He started the second game, and he started actually yesterday. It was the 23rd. So he goes, "Yeah, I started today." I said, how do they do that? Because for me, I just I write the lineup and I tape it to the dugout. He goes, "Dinsey does the same thing." And I'm like, "So he gives you no heads up or nothing like that?" He goes, "No." I said, "Okay." And I said, "So you got to be mentally ready and physically ready day in and day out." And he's like, "Yes." He goes, I did have a conversation with him about, I think he said in December, like, "Hey, listen, there's upperclassmen. They'll probably start, but you have to be ready." So I just told him, I'm like, "Jack, you got to do your thing. You got to, just be mentally prepared." So like Dimitri said, these guys are paid to keep their jobs. They got to win. So they're going to try to recruit every best player that they possibly can.
Yeah.
And, whether that means if you're a senior, they want that freshman to play over you if they're better than you.
Yeah. Because it makes them look good that they're bringing in good players, Right. Yeah. And that's, Yeah, I love that point you made, Dimitri, because that's something I personally experienced was that they're always bringing in another class that's meant to be their best class. And before I talk on that, Mike, what's your background? I know your IG tag is bow hunting hockey player, so you played hockey of some sort.
Yeah, it's at some point, right? I mean, growing up, I was predominantly just a two-sport athlete. Started out obviously in baseball. I thought when I was a little kid, being that my father was a Mets draft pick back in the '60s, that it was in the bloodlines. It was gonna be in my future. So just working at that. And baseball was to a point that you mentioned earlier about how certain things are a grind in life. Whether it's work or raising kids or what have you. And baseball always was like that for me. I always worked hard at it because I love the game. And then a few years after that is when I started dipping my toe in the hockey water. And that actually just came natural to me. And my defining moment, whereas Jeremy said his was in 8th grade, mine was in 10th grade, where, I tried out for the varsity baseball team and made it through like the first couple of rounds of tryouts, didn't make the final cut. All my good friends at that time were, predominantly baseball players, and it turned out that same year we were forming a high school hockey team. And I just gravitated to that, and I just focused all my time and efforts into hockey. And that's what got me into college, sports, not too far from, south from where you are up in Binghamton. Got to play a couple of years there, Division III level.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, I wasn't always the fastest guy. I wasn't the smallest, I wasn't, most of the times I was the smallest guy, but, I wasn't always the biggest guy. And, I took a lot away from, jumping from high school to college where, I was, the captain of my high school team. I was the leading scorer in my high school team. And then when I showed up freshman year in college, here I am, the little guy in the corner of the locker room, and, everybody around me, 6'2", 200, 210, 195. And, you just had to, work on just how am I going to get better at this level, and growing up, I always wanted to play with the guys that were better than me or bigger than me, because that would toughen me up. That would make me want to be as good as they are. Like, even though they're bigger than me, what are they doing to get to the level that they're at? And that's something I always wanted to achieve playing sports. And, even now, like with work, Jeremy mentioned about, going through job interviews and, being in the architectural and design industry, which is what I'm in, being laid off 3-4 times in my professional career. I mean, talk about getting knocked down and trying to get back up again. Sports prepared me for that, getting cut from teams and, losing championships or playoff games or what have you. And there's so many correlations you can take away from sports into your everyday life. And yeah, for those that aren't playing any kind of sport or don't have some kind of outlet that can put them through the ups and downs that you go through life, it's, I imagine it'd be a little tougher for them, I mean, the four of us have that experience. So it's definitely helped shape me. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think anybody, the whole thought of me having this discussion is, any young guys or girls that are listening to this that are in those later years of high school and trying to decide whether they want to play sports in college, whether it is club or whether it is one of the actual sanctioned teams or whatever. I mean, getting involved in athletics in college, I think it's invaluable, and my experience was a challenging one because I went to Fredonia right out of high school, and like I already have covered, I thought I was the shit and was a pitcher. You show up, they'd make you a reliever right off the bat because you're just a freshman. You're just an average player. They make you a reliever and you struggle to adjust to that. And actually probably the downfall of my Fredonia career was we were playing in Pitt Bradford. And I got freaking shelled. I think I gave up a grand slam and then a solo home run, and I was out of the game. And that was probably the knife in my back at Fredonia. I didn't know it at the time. But going back around to Dimitri's point, there's always guys coming up behind you. I had an awful season. The coach told me where I stood. I knew what I had to work on. And I went home that summer and I busted my ass, like focused so hard. I played on multiple different, I was playing on multiple teams, just grinding. And I came back the best baseball player I was. And I had a fantastic fall. I know I did. And nobody saw it coming. And I got cut. And I was one of 3 returning guys that got cut from the team. And I was just dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it. And it knocked me down hard. Like I didn't know what to do. I was kind of headed down a really frustrating path, and I was done. I was going to leave the school. I ended up leaving. I went to community college for a semester, and I played at Finger Lakes Community College, and they had the coach there was actually my Legion coach, and he's the one that got me on the team because it was kind of tough to get in, mid-year to get into a team. But I came for the second semester. I had a freaking awesome year, probably the best year of baseball I had in my life, pitching wise. And then I ended up going to Brockport, make the team at Brockport. And then I find out that winter that I had a shoulder issue. And it took me almost 6 months of doing the physical therapy and going and trying to figure out what it was. And they thought it was rotator cuff, ended up being a torn labrum. So it's like you spend all this time and all this energy trying to prepare so you have that opportunity. I never got to play in a game at Brockport. Who knows what would have transpired there? I may have hardly ever played. Who knows? I may not even have been whatever. But it taught me so much in that. It's that like I wanted to play so bad that it grinded me through it. But then at the end of the day, it's that like humbling moment when you realize like this isn't something that I'm going to make any money at. And I need to buckle down and focus on the books and get this degree and get to work and start making some money, So it's all those lessons, and that's why I think it's important for kids and people, if they have the opportunity to play collegiate sports, go as far as you can, because it's going to teach you so many life lessons that you're not going to learn unless you are putting yourself in those uncomfortable, challenging positions that, you can reflect back on those times. Like college, I don't know about for you guys. I mean, for college, for me, the classes were great. I can't say I really remember hardly shit from my college classes. It's the lessons that I learned. And, I finished paying for those lessons like a year and a half ago, which is kind of nice. But that's the stuff I walked away with. It wasn't some business management class I took, because clearly I failed at that. But, I'm a salesman now. So I'm one of those guys. I'm a wild cat, and they can't control me. So you got to put me on the road in front of customers, and that's how things will work out. But
what's crazy too, though, Bill, is nowadays, just because for me being in a position as like the varsity head coach and trying to deal with certain schools, like baseball, so it's like particularly baseball, because that's what like mine and your bread and butter. Like now it's the travel stuff. Like I'll get like the academy schools that want to come in and interview some of these like teachers and coaches for some of their players, or I'll get like the higher end D2 and Division 3. But these kids, like for Jack, for instance, that committed to Virginia Tech when he was a sophomore, man, I never heard a peep from them. Like they never checked in and be like, hey, how's Jack doing? Like the only thing I got was Jack telling me, hey, coach, could you make sure to update the max preps, just because I know my coaches are looking. Like I'd had a rough game last week. I went 3 for 4. That's going to bring my average up pretty good. Like, could you update that quick? Because
they're watching.
Yeah, they're watching that. So like anybody that is a young, student athlete, or wanting to get into doing this, I don't know, podcasts and stuff that we're doing, like you have to realize that people are, you're going to go through ups and down and challenges and all that type of stuff. And like Bill brought up earlier too, it's just like kind of to just continue to be yourself and do what you believe in, because the whole sports thing, it's totally different than what even we went through, man. And it's crazy to think about. Like, I don't even know what would happen if I were a high school kid and throw me in a situation I had growing up where I lived with my grandparents and, really now my connection with my dad is awesome just because of this whole hunting thing and just where he is at his point in his life. And I love him to death. And, my mom and I are still on a rocky situation. It's my sister's like my mother, and it's, man, that's why I do what I do as far as coaching. Like I told Dimitri, like I love coaching baseball just because it saved me, you know, like Bill, like you talked about, like, you don't know where you would have been. I don't know where I would have been. You know, one of my good friends, he was a 12-year veteran in the major leagues. And I played alongside of him. When I played third, he played short, 6'3", 215 in high school, just a complete animal. Like when you, like cartoon character,
like a foot taller than you, huh?
Dude, yeah, he was. And it was, you know, but I saw what it took to get to that level. So I'm like, man, Russ is taking those extra ground balls. I'm taking extra ground balls. Russ is doing this on the tee. I'm doing this on the tee.
Right.
And like I said, your God-given talent's only going to get you so far. You just have to keep evolving and doing it. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just a matter of like the end message is just believe in yourself, even when you think no one else does, and just try to just give it your all. And if you're like me, like at least you could say you die trying. You know, I don't know.
That's what I think. You're never gonna be mad at yourself for giving it your all and doing your best and failing, or besides, if you don't give it your all, then you're going to regret it. Right? I mean, I think that's a very valuable lesson that a lot of, whether you take that into athletes or hunting or your career, right? You're never going to look back and be like, man, I gave it my all, but boy, did I fall. You're going to say, man, I mean, I gave it the best shot I could and it just didn't happen. Yeah. Right. But if you just kind of dilly dally through life or, sports and you're going to think back years from now, you're just sitting there and be like, man, what could have happened if I would have gave it your all, at least you knew it just wasn't going to happen for you.
I always tell my kids, especially when we start getting down to the end of the season, I always tell them, the seniors, there's going to be a day when you hang up your cleats. For some of you, it's going to be like 3 weeks from now. For some, it could be a couple of years from now. Hopefully for some of you, it's going to be years from now. But when the day that does happen, you don't want to be sitting there being like, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have tried that. That's there's things I regret, and it eats me alive. Like it truly does. Like there's, and you could kind of correlate that to the hunting somewhat, the day you're like the end of the season when you hang up your bow or the rifle and you're packing away your clothes and stuff. It's like, man, that one day I know I talked myself out of doing that. I mean, it's a whole different thing. Like, don't get me wrong. It's totally different, but
no, but there's a lot of similarities, man. I mean, because you are preparing for that one opportunity. It's no different than preparing for that big game, and you get out there and you blow it. And the only person you have to blame is you. Yep. You missed that shot. That's on me. I know I practiced, but I freaking missed, and that hurts. And that, that can either make people or break them. They can say, well, I'm done. I'm not going to bother buying a license next year. Or you can look at that as like, yeah, this is a legit challenge, and I'm going to go back after it next time, and I'm going to do better. I'm going to learn from my mistakes and better myself.
Yeah, especially in hunting, right? Because it's you against you, right? I mean, we can talk after, an afternoon sit or an all day sit and say, hey, what'd you see out there? How was your setup or whatever? But once you're in there, it's just you, and, while we're on the topic of sports, I mean, all the years that I played golf, I always associate hunting archery with golf, because it's when you're golfing and you shank one or you skip one, you don't want to keep dwelling on that shitty shot, right? You want to worry about the next one. What can I do to hit the next one better? Same thing with hunting, right? So you try to set up one way, you do a different setup the next time. You shot over the back of a deer, okay, was my mechanics off? Was it me? And you get right back up on the horse, and you just you keep trekking forward. And I mean, I don't know, like you said, Jeremy, I don't know where I was going with that either, but I just think it's important to really just own what you do, throughout the course of a season, and just day to day too. It's like, don't try to dwell on things, just trying to kind of build off of that and just become a better, hunter, athlete, father, colleague, whatever it takes. So,
yeah. And I think it's I would compare in the sports realm, I would compare it to, you know, like to your point, Mike, you know, I think it's confidence is a huge thing. You know, when you go out there, I think that I, for a lot of years, approached deer hunting very timidly and was very cautious, very timid. I don't want to mess up. I got to be careful of all this. Ever since I started being aggressive and being confident, because of all the practice I was putting in, or the time I was putting in, or the information I was listening to on podcasts or whatever, it's like I start being more aggressive and more confident. All of a sudden, the productivity just went through the roof, because I wasn't out there just to be out there. I was out there I was going to get the job done, you know. And I would compare it on the sports side. It's almost like that freshman who comes in that is a freshman pitcher, and he's so freaking unaware of the pressure he's under that he's a stud. And you're out there as a senior freaking shaking on the mound, and your mouth is dry and you can't think straight. And this freshman comes out there just hurling. And it's like, this kid doesn't even freaking know, but he's just confident. He's full of it. He's full of confidence, and he doesn't know any better. And I think sometimes just as humans, we can overthink shit way too much. It's like, just go out there and be confident of yourself. And if that confidence is pretty apparent when you're around other people, you can see confidence, and you can see confidence, but then you can figure out pretty damn quickly whether somebody's just an ass or if they really have the skills and the experience to back it up, you know.
I've seen that wholeheartely with Dimitri. Like, I've had the honor to hang out with him.
That he's an ass.
Yeah. but no, like, seriously, like, for the last 2.5 years, I've had the chance to see him really, like, when it comes to in those heat of the moments, those opportunities, like, he's the teammate that I wish I would have had. Like, that's the teammate where I would have loved to just ran through. Like, if he's like, hey, we got to go through this wall, like, I'm like, let's buckle up. We're going through the wall.
Yeah.
And, and like you were just saying, Bill, of all the confidence in the world, like, this past year, although neither any of the three of us, Mike, Dimitri, and I, we didn't shoot a buck, but, I thought for sure it's all like, it's been true the past 2 years, even like Dimitri's the first one to get some blood on the ground and some meat in the freezer. But I thought this year was like, man, I'm like, he's going to just let one he's going to get a hanger, like, just get one that is just going to just all the work that he put in and just the confidence and just everything. I just felt like this was going to be a year where, that really nice big buck was going to drop for him. Like, just that lucky, right place, right time. And, it just didn't happen, but like, seeing it and being around it, like, I fed off it. You know what I mean? It's just like I said, it's just that what I've been able to see, it's just been awesome to see that, man.
That's what I think. A lot of these kids that we're talking about playing high school sports or, college sports, I think too, if you love the outdoors, there's ways of trying to continue that and be involved in that and play sports. I think that's another important topic that we need to discuss, because I knew growing up, especially in high school, you're playing football and it's really hard to get out there. I mean, you have games on Friday, so waking up that Saturday morning is kind of tough too. But I know even then when I went to college, not being able to participate in hunting especially when I was at Maryland, I mean, it was in the city. So that wasn't even a thought, and sitting there in class, especially on the first day of rifle, and seeing my dad sending me these buck pictures of everyone getting these deer. I mean, that was just heartbreaking for me. And I know I had a huge passion for the outdoors. So, that was easy for me to continue on afterwards. But I think a lot of these kids these days that are involved in these sports are kind of, not finding ways to kind of participate in both. Yeah. And they're losing the interest of hunting. And we got to kind of figure out how we regain that participation, and we don't lose these hunters and continue this passion as they get older and pass that on. Because I think that's important. If we're seeing lots of these young hunters losing participation and being involved. So I think that's another discussion that's important.
Right.
I was fortunate when I went to Edinburgh, one of my best friends in school, and he played football too. He had a farm 5 miles outside of town. So I was able to bring my bow up to school and hunt a lot of times in the fall, even playing college football, which was huge for me. But I think we got to kind of discuss and make them aware that they can do both.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to see both of our states, Pennsylvania and New York, are trying to make more opportunity, more time for people to get out. You guys have had, this year, the first time ever, there was a couple, 2-3 Sundays you guys could hunt. That's huge. It gets a few extra hunting days a year that might get that person out there and, get that fire lit. And then, like here in New York, I mean, Mike, you and I can't believe the kickback I'm seeing from people about this holiday hunt. People are like, oh, do we really need another week of hunting? It's like,
yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, if you don't, I said this to Jeremy yesterday. I'm like, if you don't want to hunt, don't hunt.
Then don't hunt.
They're not forcing you to hunt.
Right.
But there's kids that go away to college and they come home for Christmas break and then they're off from, the 10th or 15th of December until, I mean, you can give those kids 3 weeks to deer hunt now. Like, that's a big deal. And it's not just kids, but it's everybody. But it's like, to me, the more opportunity, the merrier. And hunter numbers have historically been going down. We had the COVID kick last year, but it'll be yet to be seen whether that continues or not. I hope it does.
I'll tell you what, though, I just saw more schools are within this past week announcing going full-fledged, full bore next year. Like we're back, like full, which is great. I'm for that. So again, like you said, Bill, like where are we going to be? Like, hopefully, did they get that itch? Did they pick open that scab and say, "Ooh, I like this again," and let's get back into it?
Yeah. And I think New York, we're starting to, dude, it's freaking wild here what they're doing. They're trying to pack, at least in the Rochester area, they're finishing winter sports like in the next week or two. Then they're going and they're going to play fall sports for a month and a half. And then they're going to play spring sports in the last month and a half of school. So I'm in the transportation side of the, I sell school buses, but I'm working with transportation departments. They went from literally not having hardly any kids to transport because you got half of people are remote learning and other kids are going in. So you got buses that should have 55, 60 kids on them. They're transporting 10 kids, to now they're going to go and they're going to be transporting football and soccer and baseball and lacrosse, all this shit at the same time. It's like, so life is not going to slow down. So if you can give people a few more days, during a holiday stretch or weekend days to go do something, like, you have to do that.
Yeah, that's that's where it hits what Dimitri just said about trying to get these, if it is like, I mean, Bill, that's why I really love and appreciate your message and like doing what you're doing. Like, you're like, our model is that education, quote unquote model. Yours is the same thing, but also building, the future hunting. And that's, what I mean? I love that. So when you look at that, you have to get, like you're saying, like, yeah, don't hunt. Like, same thing. We had the kickback for the first day of opening rifle season being on a Saturday. Well, then stay at camp, dude. Like, I don't care. Go ahead. Like,
don't tell your wife and just pretend that the day is the same day.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. But like, if I was a kid, maybe I would, like, if I had that opportunity, maybe I would have continued to hunt during those timeframes, even though I like I said, like, there's a chunk of time where I didn't, just because of, the relationship I have with my father and just everything going on in my life. I removed myself from it. And maybe if I would have had an opportunity like that of coming back home from school, because when I was at Penn State and I came back home, rifle season was over, you know what I mean? And archery season was, obviously the late season, but I mean, the bow I had at the time wasn't fit for me, so it's, if that's a week that gets kids out or young adults or whoever chance to hunt, like, if people, that's their week off from work because they're whatever they're doing, they can't take off. Maybe that's their day to finally get out. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a good thing, and hopefully we could continue to get these numbers up. And like I said, what I said earlier, with that student athlete last night when he was telling me about fishing with his dad, I mean, he's like, man, I loved it. I can't wait to get back out there. I'm like, well, good, man. I'm like, I'm glad you found that and you built that kind of memories, and we want to continue to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny to talk about, the relationship with your dad now, Jeremy, too. Growing up, my father was always my baseball coach, so we always shared that baseball passion. And then when I got involved in hockey, he got on board with that and was right there with me. And, life took me in another direction as well, sports and, just my career. And tried hunting when I was 16 years old. And because I was so engaged and so involved in sports and never really gravitated to it. Well, fast forward, I came back to it in my 40s, right? And now my father and I have a newfound passion because he's 73 and he's still climbing up tree stands, and he's got that renewed vigor to want to continue to go out there because he wants to see me succeed. But I also want to see him knock one down at his age, and, it's just creating that bond and continuing that chase, right? That chase for a championship or that chase to make this team or whatever, hunting's the same thing, right? You're out there, it's the chase, and, what we're doing, Billy, what you're doing and, some of these other, outfits that we've all been in touch with and, how we all share that same passion and how we're all trying to get the same message out and, continue to grow the hunting community, especially at the youth level. And, my godson, we got him his first compound bow. He's 10 years old. I got him his first compound bow for Christmas. And I'm going to get him involved in a mentor program. He wants to, pursue it. He really wants to get into archery. He's fascinated. I showed him some videos from my tree stand, just, doe and bear walking by. And, even if I just pull one kid into the community, that's one more we can add to our community and our lifestyle. So, it might take little steps at a time, but, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Right. So.
Yep. And I think we might be like one of those first generations. I mean, you just aged yourself, Mike. You're in your 40s. Holy shit. You're an old man. Woo! Man. Okay. So sidebar, I hope to God Mike and Dimitri don't whoop my ass when I see you guys in June at TAC, because I've been talking a lot of shit over here from my mom's basement. I'm over here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in the hunting industry are doing that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. My uncle Mike refuses to participate in Pert Near Outdoors activities, and he says podcasts are just for 30-year-old dudes living in their mom's basement. That's what he says. So
drinking their IPAs.
Yeah, exactly. He just doesn't understand what it's all about, Shit, I derailed myself. I forget where I was going.
Well, the question I have for everyone on here tonight is, I think the biggest issue, and this is unrelated to sports, what we've been talking about, but, I think social media has a lot to do with a lot of these young hunters kind of giving it up, just because, you look on there, you see giant bucks all the time, and you kind of expect that's what you should be shooting. Right. And especially in central PA, and I'm sure it's pretty similar up in New York. I mean, the deer density is just not there, and the age class isn't there as well. So, you watch these videos on YouTube or, the Outdoor Channel, and you're seeing all these, they're seeing 10 to 15 deer and four or five bucks, and they're passing them up, waiting for this giant, right? And then you go out in the woods, and you're lucky if you see a doe and two fawns. That would be a good night, maybe around here, especially early on, right? And so they're kind of getting discouraged going out and sitting, and they're young, they're making mistakes. So what do we do to engage these young hunters and kind of educate them on what they're seeing on social media? I think that's a big question that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's why it's important to drive what we're trying to do and trying to drive a local conversation, because it's like, okay, let's focus on what's going on here, not what's going on in Iowa or what's going on in, some of these big buck states. Like, yeah, everybody likes big bucks, but I also think that the piece that comes back around to it is the camaraderie piece and the family aspect and the fill in the freezer piece. Like, that's what's important to us. And I think at the end of the day, the majority of hunters, that's what's important. It's not about the inches of the buck, but you get in this little echo chamber and you just see, I mean, it's everything in our world right now. It's Twitter, it's politics, it's hunting, it's whatever. We're all super focused on hunting, but I'm sure the trail running community and the soccer community and every little niche group is the same way.
Fitness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, when you get back around to the bottom of it, you have a lot of people that are doing it the right way, that are shooting giants, but then you've got a lot of people that skeletons are in the closet and shit keeps coming out. And it's like, you know, so who are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the people that are genuine and organic and they're just like you and you can relate to, or are you going to follow somebody that, you know, has, and this is not me talking shit about, you know, like the Lakoskis and people like that they've been working their whole lives to have a farm and to have the tractors and have all that. Like it's a different life. Like we are all just regular people that hunt, that live for the weekends so we can go out and shoot our forker and shoot a couple does, grind that meat up and feed our family for the year. And like, that's what hunting is about. You know, you're seeing the industry at like ATA has really tried to start. Like I was on a conference call that I somehow weaseled my way into that. It must was I'm going to open to the public or something, because I wasn't invited, but I seen it and I jumped on it, and it was, you know, it was the guys from the hunting public and Mark Kenyon and a lot of the big names in the hunting community that were talking about the fact we have to stop focusing on all horns and inches and start focusing on what really matters here, and that's keeping hunting alive and showing people the right way to do this stuff. You know, and I think it's up to every one of us, you know, whether we want to accept the fact or not that we're influencers, you know, it's up to all of us to just be real and share that right message, you know?
So when you look at it, Bill, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, you brought up amazing points and how Dimitri asked the question, is it somewhere where we have to almost like revisit the whole hunter education system and say, listen, because of like, they need to develop and say, you are going to see social media now. Like everything has like, I cover in my health class. I have a media and consumerism unit that I could fucking do the whole year. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you pull these, you know, the PA Game Commission, like have a whole freaking thing on just social media and bring them out in the woods, like maybe create a early season velvet week for just kids from 12 to 16 years old, where they come out and just, I don't know, just have fun, do something, or figure out ways to get them involved and say, listen, maybe there's some type of course that we could develop as quote unquote influencers or whatever with our game commissions, and just say, like, here's what we need to get to our young kids. It is not all about the inches. It's not all about this. Yes, there's going to be opportunities where you're going to have Frank and Beans walking around on properties, but then there's also opportunities where the biggest deer you're going to see is like this. Do you know what I'm saying? And like, when you shoot that, man, I'm going to be jacked as hell because of what, you know, opportunities, you know what I mean? So there has to be something where we could work with PA, like whatever game commissions or whatever wardens, to say, listen, there needs to be some type of program, or again, instilled in this safety course where you're getting safety course, but then also just like hunting lessons where it could get just hopefully in their heads early. Cause like Dimitri said, if you go out and like, you know, if you're some kid that just likes hunting and you see all these little 5 points and 4 points on your uncles and grandfather's walls, and they're so proud of it. And then you go to Instagram and you go on the you know, whatever Bucks page, and you just see everybody with their massive 140s or bust. And, you know, now too, I don't think anybody could freaking add, to be honest with you. But I mean, you know, when you look at it, you'd say, okay, if you shoot this, phenomenal, good job. However, this is a dime a dozen, son. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to go and you got to put in the work. You know, it could be off the road, it could be whatever, but at the same time, that is one type of deer where there could be 50 other bucks running around where they're all smaller. You know what I'm saying? And you may never see them. So I don't know. There's got to be something like with your local or state commission where there's a new part within your hunter education where social media has to be covered just because I think it, like Dimitri said, it really discourages kids. They could be like, oh, I want to be like X, influencer. Well, guess what?
Well, it's no different. It's no different than young girls trying to look like Kylie Jenner.
Right.
It's like, it's fucked up. Like Dude. My wife showed me a picture of her the other day, and I'm like, Jesus, fucking disgusting. I'm like, that she looks like a piece of plastic, and it's awful. But you're so right, and that's probably why you talk about that in your health class, because you have to be aware of what you're seeing is doctored. Like,
dude, my sister is a district manager. She just told me the other day, she's like, you wouldn't believe this, and I doubt I would have to worry about this, but she's like, this girl is like 20 or 19 or 20. She's going down Miami. She's a big TikTok famous person, and she's getting that Brazilian butt lift or whatever it's called.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, you're 19, girl. Like, I'm sure it's firm. Like, I'm sure it ain't sagging.
No.
But that's what, she's made, like my sister said, she's legit making money. Like, companies are giving her money to be dancing and doing all hooting and hollering type stuff. But I mean, I don't know. And that's I don't know.
This ties all into the ethics part, right? They teach ethics in the hunter safety course and the big game course, right? I mean, when they tell you, if you do knock something down, the whole grip and grin thing, and maybe that's where the tie-in is, right? Just don't do it for the right reasons. And I know Dimitri, you said this a while back, and this has stuck with me since the early days that you and I met. If you see a doe, or if you see a small 6, if it gives you that 10, 12 point fever, knock it down. That's what you're out there for, right? Don't worry about what you see on Instagram, or not making somebody's Facebook page, or somebody not reposting your story on Instagram. If it's going to make you proud when it's on your wall, and, I call, or text, Jeremy or Dimitri and say, hey, look, I just knocked down a 6, right? I know they're going to be the first ones to congratulate me, And I agree. I think it has to start at the lower levels, the education level.
Yeah, and I think so many people think that, oh man, if I shoot that big buck, it's going to put me on the map, and it might for 15 minutes, and then somebody's going to shoot a bigger one, and then it doesn't make you a better person, or it doesn't help you pay for your retirement. It's like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but you have to, and this discussion gets me. It seems like every year around the end of deer season, it gets me. Like, I've been burned out with social media and the hunting. I'm hoping it's kind of that pendulum effect where it's swung so far the one way that you see some of the biggest name companies they're marketing with those Instagram stars, they're marketing with those TikTok stars. And it's like, these people don't even hunt. They don't even kill things, and it's like, they're not the ones that should be, supporting a product or helping teach the next generation. They couldn't go out and kill something on their own, let alone, teach somebody how to do it. So to me, like, that's where I get fired up about this. And I've calmed down, I've got the month and a half after deer season. I'm relaxed a little bit, but you had to ask the question to bring it up, Dimitri. But I think everybody just needs to be aware. I think if there's anything that everybody in this country should have learned from the last year, is that you have to take a step back and figure out, why are you seeing what you're seeing, and how did it get there? Marketing is a ridiculously powerful thing. And if they want you to buy something, they know how to do it, So, yeah.
Well, and I think before the 5 listeners that actually listen to our podcast troll us, I think I have to say, we're not complaining that we can't shoot smaller deer too, because I mean, the PA implemented the antler restriction, which I think is a great thing to let bucks mature. So, it's that happy medium in the middle, right? I mean, I'm glad that we have the antler restriction, because we are seeing a lot bigger deer, a lot mature deer out in the woods. But we're also saying, if it's within the legal limits and you want to take it, that's great too, right? So, before the people say, oh, you just want to shoot small deer, and PA's done all this work to build it up and create mature deer that we can harvest. So, I'm not saying that. So I want people to realize that before they listen to this and really, troll us on the internet saying,
well, you got to look at it's common math. The deer density is low. The population of hunters is enormous. Like it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And down and up here, we have a pretty good hunter population, and our population's enormous. Like, we have a shitload of deer up here, and New York State is trying everything in their power to get more deer, to get our deer density down. And it's in a lot of areas, it's not working, and we're all trying. There's a bunch of us out there that are whacking and stacking and trying, but it's not working. But you're right, Dimitri. I mean, I think it all comes back around to the fact that the size of the horns, it needs to stop being the number one part of the discussion. Everybody loves big bucks. I want to shoot a big buck. You want to shoot a big buck. We all want to shoot big bucks. But at the end of the day, that's not what matters. What matters is the hunt. What matters is conservation, and that can get beat over the head as much as you possibly want. But it's just understanding the whole process. And we now more than ever, having these sort of platforms, having the ability to get information literally at the click of a button, like we got to start being better than that. And, people trashing each other on social media for disagreeing with the state not putting an antler restriction in, or it's like, you can control your own.
Right. You can't control that, man. You can't. I always say, man, be where your feet are, and only worry about what you can control. I can't control what you say and all that type of stuff, or what you believe. I can't control that, man. Like, you're set. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you could develop over time, but you're set in your ways at the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I just, we said it too on a podcast, and I don't want to continue to go down a rabbit hole, but it's this year more than ever. We've seen people say, man, I know it's not the biggest buck, but I got it done in 2020, it's like, man, you shouldn't have to say that. And it's because of social media. And I know the only reason why too, those people are saying is because they don't want to be attacked. You know what I mean? So like, they know that. And I mean, go ahead.
That just came up on your podcast you posted today about the moose, where I don't think it was the moose. It was the doe he shot where he spined it, and he's kind of apologizing for it. And Dimitri's like, dude, that's part of it. Like, it happens. You can't, like, this isn't a, everybody wants to paint this picture that every shot I took was a heart shot and the deer died in 10 seconds. It's like, you're killing something. Like, and I think the more honest we can be about what we're doing and talking through it. And that's, I think, what makes hunting so interesting, is that it is real. There's not many things in life anymore that are real, and hunting or fishing are as real as it gets. Like, you're out there going against nature. And if you start trying to powder coat that and make it look pretty and sexy, that sheen wears off after a while, and it loses its interest. Because if it's all it's about is big bucks, once you shoot that big buck, well, then why the hell are you going back out? You got your big buck.
Go ahead, Dimitri.
That's what I even think about that moment with that doe. I mean, how do we know if you double lung a doe that she's going to suffer less with that running, 30 seconds to a minute and then crashing? How do you know she doesn't have more pain with that than if you spine her, which she's paralyzed, and then you put quickly within 10 seconds, you're putting another arrow, putting her down within 5 seconds? I mean, we don't know what's going to put, less stress on the deer, So, I mean, how do you really play that out and really diss somebody for doing that? I mean, you're not purposely trying to do that. And then, two, a lot of videos we see, they spine a deer and then they cut to it and then they walk up right to the deer, and you don't see what happened, in between there, right? And they put another arrow in the deer, but how do you know a young hunter isn't watching that video? So maybe he does that. He doesn't know what to do, right? So maybe you're educating them on a mistake, right? And then that's going to make them a better hunter and be more aware of what to do in that situation. So I think we kind of don't want to make mistakes in front of people, but that's an important lesson to learn.
We're human, man. And we're human. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah. And I don't really plug them that often, but I've had them on here before, Chad Draper and his gang from Redneck Rising. I was looking at their YouTube views last night, and it's disgusting to me because they're putting out awesome content. It's local right here. I mean, it's a great video. It's fantastic. And his wife, I think that was probably one of the best videos I've seen. And he told me the whole backstory. So before the video came out, I knew the whole story on the whole deal. And it's like, it's a hilarious episode, but his wife was struggling and she was all over the place with her aim, and she ended up spining in the buck, and she had to finish it. And, you know, they kept that in there, you know, and they show it and it's real. And it's like, yeah, to your exact point, Dimitri, it's like you learned something from that. Like you can see what happened, see how they handled the situation. And then there's legit emotion and passion behind it to show like, yeah, we don't feel good about that, but that's what happens, you know?
Yeah, that goes back to what we were saying earlier about it's an understanding, right? You understand that that's going to happen when you're hunting, right? And, you know, you don't want it to happen, but it does. And you have to also understand that there's people who are going to be out there. Well, how could you do that? Or, you know, and, you know, how could you put another arrow in her, you know, to finish the job? And it's like, well, that's not what I was out here for. No. That's not what I was trying to do. So, I mean, it's tough to accept, but, you know, the same way you have to deal with, you know, the haters that troll you on your Instagram feed or your YouTube page, that, you know, you have to understand that those people are going to be out there, you know, no matter how ethical and how much you try to put out, you know, the message that you want to put out, just, you know, whether it's ethics or education or whatever, there's always going to be that person out there that's just going to, you know, kind of like poke you and just, you know, like I'm sitting in my mom's basement, you know, with my man bun and drinking my IPA, and, you know, I'm just going to stir this shit up, you know, and, you know, it sucks, but, you know, you just, over time, you get thick skin. You just know you can tune that out, and being a part of the hunting community with, you know, with all of us, and, you know, a lot of our other, you know, colleagues and hunting buddies, and that's all the support you need is right there. You know, those are the guys that are going to pick you up when you miss, you know, those are the guys who are going to be patting you on the back when you succeed. So.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I mean, there's a lot of other things I want to talk about, but
we got to do part 2, man.
We're going to have to do a part 2.
Part 2.
For sure.
Because my whoop is telling me that I got to be to bed in 5 minutes. So if I don't listen to my whoop, then I'm not going to be
going out west is what's happening.
Do you guys use anything like that? Any, like a whoop or any sort of fitness watch or anything?
I use a Garmin. That's about it. I used to use Whoop, and then $30 a month went down the drain for 6 months.
Right. Yeah, I did that, and then I started using the Whoop last summer, because I was training I usually do like one trail race a year.
Yeah, you're stupid. You do all those crazy runs. You're like Cam Hanes.
See, dude, here I thought you were calling your wife your Whoop. See, I didn't even know what technology was. I thought you were talking about
that Whoop cost me a lot more than $30 a month.
I hope you keep this on the episode.
Hey, you're not getting any Whoop at this late at night doing a podcast.
Oh shit! Yeah, maybe if I do get to bed in a few minutes, you never know. But there's so much data on this free, like, and now I'm addicted. Now I'm addicted to it. So, and I'm trying to like figure out my recovery, because I can really feel like I'm dragging ass. Like I'm trying to. Being a father of 2, like Mike, you've been there, like Dimitri's there now. It's like 2 is way more than 1. And then you're trying to do all this other stuff and then training for a race. Like it's a freaking nightmare. So I'm like trying to find that groove where I'm getting some good rest and recovery. And I'm starting to had like 4 good recovery nights in a row. So I'm
just no, you're too fired up right now. You ain't getting
I know.
You ain't going to bed right now.
So this is the 3rd week in a row that I've done a podcast on either a Thursday or a Wednesday night. And the first Q&A we did there 2 weeks ago, that went like 2 hours, and it got done at like 10:45. And I'm like fired up. I'm like, this is so fun. It was great. So I'm upstairs, I'm watching TV. It's like 11:30. I'm like, holy, and it took me like a couple days to recover from that. But hey, you know,
hey man, you live once.
You start the week off good, and then you just let it go to hell. That's kind of how I approach things.
I love it, man. No, we'll definitely do part 2 for sure. This was a blast, and
yeah. Well,
talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot. We'll do part 2 on yours. How about that? Sound good?
Let's do it.
I'd like to kind of recap, this past hunting season. I would like to.
Yeah,
you guys have already talked to.
You killed like 9 deer, so it's like
It was only 5. It was only 5. Yeah, but it was an awesome hunting season. So I'd like to hear and talk a little bit more in depth about, like, not necessarily the hunt side of your guys' Western trip, but some of the things that you guys learned from that, because this is the time of year that a lot of people are starting to think about that and start getting ready for heading out west. So I think a discussion about the things that you took with you that you wouldn't take with you next time and stuff like that.
for sure. Yeah, we'll run it on our podcast, but I mean, let's do kind of like a co-host type thing just to kind of keep feeding off each other. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's a good discussion. I really enjoyed it, guys. It's fun getting to know you guys at a different level too. And our Dimitri, Mike, I know you're going. Dimitri, are you going to TAC?
Yeah, I'll be there on Saturday. So I'm coming down as soon as I leave work on Friday. Gonna meet Jeremy. So we got a hotel room. So we're gonna hang out Friday night, and then I'll shoot all day Saturday.
Yeah, so we're doing
It's
the
gonna
same
be
thing.
a total shit show.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. What?
Yeah.
So what are you guys shooting on Saturday?
Well, I talked to Jim. You guys are
10:30 on
Yeti, right? We're
Yeti.
10. Yeah, we're 10.
right before you guys.
Right before.
Oh, it's going to be talking shit.
Yeah, so like I told Dimitri we'll have that. We are still doing the sponsorship since we had it was postponed last year, canceled, whatever. So we got it held over for this year. So we got it for the Yeti course. So I told Dimitri I would like to, when we get there, we'll take pictures, but then when you guys will wait for you fuckers to get there.
Perfect.
That course is going to take us like 3 hours to shoot. But we're going to spend 2 hours just on our sponsored target.
Yeah.
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 Hopefully your target's a woodchuck behind a log or something.
It'll be a 25-yard chip shot.
Yeah. That way I can hit it.
I haven't touched my bow since the end of archery season. I really need to get that out. And so for TAC, I change everything out. I change my sight out. I go with the cheapest arrows I have. I bought like 2 dozen. I bought like 2 dozen Cabela's like XP arrows, and they don't make them anymore. But before last TAC I did, and I'm gonna do that 100% this year because I'm not blowing up no freaking $8 an arrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
day 6s.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Awesome, dude.
So all right, we'll talk soon.
What's up, boys?
Stay well. Wash your hands. Take care of your women. Maybe you'll get some whoop.
Give me the whoop. Give me the whoop.
Yeah.
I like it, man. All right,
Yeah.
Bill.
See you guys.
Later, man. Later, Mike.
Later. See you, boys.